Hey there beauties, welcome back to my channel, A Fit Life Center, where I teach you small coping strategies to help you either begin, maintain, or continue a life that's fit for you. And a life that's fit for you requires a journey of discovery so that you can figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and more importantly, what helps you create a sustainable life for yourself. Because only you know, and it's a little bit of a trial and error to figure that out. So my name is Sharon. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been working with people for over 10 years, helping them manage things like anxiety, depression, recover from trauma. But these days, I like to focus on wellness, because what I have found is that we can figure out how to get through a problem, but we really struggle with figuring out how to live well, how to create a sustainable life for ourselves. That though we will have glitches along the way, overall our life is consistent with who we are and it doesn't cause us stress, right? So that's who I am and what I do. So good news is I got a taker. One of our beautiful subscribers is going to come on this channel and live with me and talk about her sabbatical and give us insight into what her experience was like. That's going to happen on a Sunday. We are still working out the time and the exact date, but it will be on a Sunday. And I really hope that you come on this channel, come on the live, and support her in telling her story. Support me too, right? Because it'll be my first live on this channel. A lot of you discovered me when I interviewed Stephanie Perry on her channel, but this will be the first time I'm interviewing somebody on my channel. I'm excited about that and nervous, but we will get through it and you will see me using coping skills, I am sure. And if I am using one, I will be open enough to point them out to you. All right, what are we talking about today? Marriage. That's what we're going to talk about. Why? 2 reasons. Next week is my anniversary, my wedding anniversary. And we are going out of town for a little bit of a celebration. And I was watching that show, Queen Charlotte, Bridgerton, on Netflix. And it just got me to thinking about the myths of marriage versus the reality, right? And so I thought maybe we would spend a little time talking about that, if you're all right with that. So what are the myths of marriage? Well, one of the myths is that marriage is the panacea. Once you get married, it's just gonna fix all your problems. Everything's gonna be cool. And you know, just like the prince and the princess in the fairy tale stories like Cinderella, right? You're gonna live happily ever after with Prince Charming. I don't know who created that story, some hopeful being, but that is not the reality of marriage, right? Marriage really is a mirror. It holds up yourself to you, right? You get to see the best and sometimes the worst parts of yourself and figure out how you're gonna cope with it, improvements that you need to make. You get to decide whether your marriage is compatible for you, all the things. Because here's the thing, you and your partner are constantly changing, evolving, right? And each step along the way is a decision that you make whether you're going to continue to stay in relationship with this person, right? Can you accept the growth? Have you grown together or grown apart? Do you have interest in things that your partner doesn't have interest in? Sometimes there's small things that it doesn't matter. Sometimes they're big things that matter a lot. And how do you navigate that, right? imagine, there's been lots of changes. We've grown as people. Life has happened to us. Our children have become adults and have moved out and live on their own. That's a lot of life, right? And then some of it created a lot of conflict. For instance, we didn't agree on parenting styles. We didn't grow up in the same house with the same parents. And so our parenting styles were different. And we had to figure out how to navigate that. And it especially showed up when our kids were teenagers, right? My husband was in the military, so he deployed a lot. He went to both Saudi Arabia and he went to Iraq, right? And he was gone for long periods of time. And in between there, he was gone for various other smaller deployments. And so I would be raising the kids how I saw fit, and then he would come back and he would think it should be done another way, and conflict would arise and we would have to work on that, right? Again, I was in my 20s when I got married. What did I know? I didn't know anything, if the truth be told. I didn't know how to be married, and I didn't know how to be anybody's mom at 21. And so at first I just mimicked what I saw other parents doing, right? And I guess it helped because my kids were bathed and clothed and fed and all the things that they were supposed to be. But I wasn't sure about who I was as a person. So it was hard for me to teach them how to be a person in themselves at first, right? So I was kind of learning that alongside of them. I'm pretty sure if my daughter was here, she would agree with that there were things I was learning as she was learning them as well, right? And it wasn't until my early 30s, really, that I started really understanding or beginning to understand who I was as a person. And I was not a traditional person. I was not a woman who wanted to stay home and just take care of the home and the babies. I wanted a career. I wanted to be in the community. I wanted to make a difference in the world, in addition to taking care of my family. And I took a lot of flack for that, to be perfectly honest. People had a lot of commentary about what they thought I should or shouldn't be doing as a parent. And I really had to learn how to ignore what people's opinions of me and do what I wanted. The good news for me is that I lived across the country away from a lot of support, right? I was across the country from my family, and most of my friends. My really good friend at the time moved away. So I had to figure it out. And I think that helped me in a way learn what I needed and drown out the naysayers, basically. And so I started realizing I like to travel. I like to be in community. I like to work. I stayed at home with my kids during a period of time when my husband was deployed because they just needed that stability. I did it, but I wasn't the best at doing that, right? And so when I could, I did. I went back to work because I am better when I am taking good care of myself and doing the things that make me a better person. I am a better person for them. And it took me some time to learn that for myself. And a lot of times when you change, it creates conflict in your marriage, right? Because who you were, the person that you were when you got married may not be the person you are 10 years, 15 years down the road, right? And so there has to be a meeting of the minds about who are you, and is this version of you still cool with me, right? And we went through that, right? My husband changed, I changed, our priorities changed, and we had to decide whether it was compatible with each other or not. And so far so good, we're still hanging in there, right? My husband, because he's been all over the world, he likes travel, but he's not crazy about it. I love to travel, and part of it probably came from being at home when he was traveling and wishing I could do that, and now that I can. So we have to come to a meeting of the minds about what that looks like. And sometimes he goes with me and sometimes I travel alone, right? And we've had to both become okay with that. And it was not an easy thing to navigate, right? There's been health issues, a host of things. Anybody that's been married a significant amount of time will tell you that they've had to learn how to navigate a host of things in order to continue the marriage. And people who have been married a significant amount of time and decided to end the relationship will tell you that maybe it wasn't because they disliked their partner. Maybe it was because they could no longer find the compatibility that held them together. And so it was time to let that relationship go and move on to something else, right? I don't judge anything, right? Because relationships are difficult to navigate. They are not the panacea. They are not going to make your life great, right? Because you are going to have to learn how to compromise without giving yourself away. And it is not an easy thing to do. And in our culture where we esteem marriage so highly, anytime you do something that doesn't look like the standard, people have a lot of commentary about it, what they think it ought to be. It doesn't seem so much that people care about if you're in a good relationship or one that works for you. They just want the pretty picture. You know, if you got a nice house and a decent car in the garage and you feel you check the box on you had some babies, they like, you must be great. And none of that makes your relationship great at all, right? These are just the ideals that we have around marriage, right? And that's what brought me to thinking, that's what got me to thinking about Queen Charlotte and Bridgerton. I'm gonna do some spoiler alert. So if you haven't watched it and you wanna watch it, I highly recommend that you pause this video right here and come back to it once you finish it, right? Because I'm gonna talk about it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right. So I was looking, I love the Bridgerton series, I really do. And Shonda Rhimes' vision for Black folks, bar none for me. She makes me happy. I do wish Queen Charlotte, it was only 6 episodes. It felt a little rushed at the end, but maybe that's because the worker strike was coming and she knew she had to get it done. I don't know, but I wished we had had more. But here's the thing. So Queen Charlotte is this powerful, dynamic, beautiful, take no prisoners in charge queen, right? And that's the way we've always seen her, right? We didn't really know much about her until this season where they pulled the curtain back on her life. And here she is, in love with, married to a man with mental health issues that at first she didn't know about. And then she realized she loved this man that had these issues, and how does she cope with it and help him too. And then eventually they have children, and her children have some issues, and then they don't mind telling her the mistakes that she's made as a mom. And what I like about Queen Charlotte is that she is decisive, but she is open to some feedback. She's obtuse to some things and yet very sensitive to others. And isn't this life at its best in a lot of ways? And I liked the complexity of her as a woman when they showed you this other side of her, right? And the difficulties of being married for a woman, especially. There were other characters, right? One woman lost her husband, he died, and she was trying to decide, you know, she still felt sexy. She wanted to engage in sex. How does she do that in a society that judges women for wanting to engage in sex? Does she have to get married again in order to enjoy her sexual self? Or does she take a lover, right? And you know, if we think about it, women are still having those kinds of discussions now, right? Because, you know, the government and everybody else wants to govern our sexuality, our ability to have children or not. Everybody wants to have a say-so, to the point that sometimes we can't even make a clear choice for ourselves without the government or other people adding their 2 cents to it. There was another woman who, she was betrothed at the age of 3, right? Because being married to this wealthy man brought wealth to her family. And she was groomed to just be his wife, right? So she was raised to like what he likes, eat what he ate, and service him. And her sexual needs was never met because he was not a good lover, right? And then he too dies, right? And she has to come to terms with, she doesn't really know who she is outside of being his wife. And society says she should just marry again to make sure, you know, that she maintains the money. But she has to decide what's best for her. And it was not a difficult, and it was a difficult decision, because she has kids that she has to feed and a house that she has to maintain. Is that not what we deal with now, right? Deciding what's in our best interest versus how do we pay the bills? How do we maintain? How do we not get talked about when we choose the thing for ourselves and get judged? I felt that in my life, very judged by the choices that I've made for myself. And it hurt at first. And then I realized, after some deep soul searching and work, that the people who might be judging me, they are not walking in my shoes in my daily life, right? They are just looking from the outside in, and they think they know what's going on, and they don't. And so I learned how to ignore them, turn the volume down, not give them access to my inner self, so that I could make decisions that had nothing to do with them, right? It's not an easy thing to do. It took me a long time to learn how to quiet the outside noise and only pay attention to my own needs, so that I could make choices for myself, and hopefully so that I could teach my daughter to make sure that she was considering herself and not always other people, right? We always want to be compassionate to other people, but I think as women, we are trained to ignore our own needs and only focus on the needs of men or our children or our family members. And it's a very unhealthy way to live. We have to, if you're going to create a life that's fit for you, you're the foundation of it. I am the foundation of my life. If I am not okay, the truth is anything that I'm creating is not okay either. They're going to be, it's not going to be sustainable over time. It is much more important that I make sure that I am well taken care of. And I don't mean by other people. I mean, I am taking care of myself. Because then anything anybody adds to me is like gravy, right? Even my husband, he's an amazing man. He really is one of the good guys. But his job is not to make sure I'm okay. That is my job alone, to make sure that I'm okay and I have the things that I need for myself, right? And then we get to negotiate with each other what that will look like in terms of how this marriage will show up. I know what I'm saying is sounds new agey, but no, it's an adult way of being in a relationship, right? And it not be self-deprecating and all of these things, right? Because I don't believe that you can be happy long term if you're always giving away your power to others and not making sure you're good. So that's why I thought today would be a good day to talk about marriage. I am grateful for all that I've been through in my marriage, and I'm grateful that we are still together and we are still building and we are still taking these next steps together. But you know what I am more grateful for? That we are two fully individual people that choose to be together, right? That's a beautiful thing when you're choosing it. He doesn't feel stuck, and neither do I. We choose to be together. And I think that's what relationships really have to be, a continual choice, right? Of, is this something that I want to keep working on, building, creating, loving, nurturing, or is it not? And then moving from that space. I want to know what your relationships are like. How have you been able to sustain the relationships that you have in your life, right? I don't care whether it's partnerships, monogamous, polyamorous, whatever it is, right? We all have to figure out how to make it work. All I ask is that you be respectful. This is not a space where we're going to be bashing anybody. We're just going to share and tell our truth as we see it. So I would like for you to comment. Let me know how you feel. The last thing is I got some new information on the menopause stuff. I've been back to the doctor. I've made some changes. I will share that with you in a future video because I'm still kind of going through it. So I will let you know what the results of some decisions I've made, how it's going so far. And don't forget the live. The live will be on a Sunday. In our community post, I will share when, the time. Again, I hope you come and support us, right? Because I keep moving out of my comfort zone. So I hope you move with me. Share these videos if you think they'd be helpful. And most of all, I hope you're creating a life that's fit for you. See you later.